Hello and welcome to this mini-series. On this episode we are going to explore the problem with Jibril. In the Quran, Jibril is mentioned by name only in 3 verses. These ones, 2 out of 3 are back-to-back, and the third one is part of Surah 66. That's all. Such an important character in the standard Islamic narrative is mentioned even less than Muhammad, which we debunked in earlier videos. Needless to say, all other verses where we read Jibril into the Quran is part of the deceit. The error happened very early on, as the preachers who created the peaceful verses of the Quran were Trinitarians, but they did not understand the nature of the Holy Spirit well, as the verse on screen shows clearly. They preachers were taught to tell listeners that they didn't have much information about it. That facilitated the narrative blending Jibril with the Spirit, even though they were distinct entities. Let's look at the 3 verses. Surah 2 verse 97 says that Jibril brought down the Quran, which inspired all the stories about the revelation in the cave and all other fabrications. The Quran, as explained on this live at Lloyd's channel, was nothing more than a narration of the Gospel, plus perhaps the heretic texts and other stories too. The preacher who spoke these verses did not understand the Spirit and thought Jibril was who inspired the writers of the Gospel. After all, Jibril had appeared to Maryam in countless other stories, so it looks like an honest mistake from a not very knowledgeable preacher in the 7th century. Verse 98 gives further context on the confusion of the person who began the confusion. In the same verse, the preacher mentions the angels, messengers, and Jibril. It's easy to see that Jibril could be the Spirit, because it is singled out apart from the angels. But, wait a minute. Look at this. The verse also singles out Michael. If the angels are the angels, and Jibril is the Spirit, then who is Michael? Another spirit? The answer is as simple as these verses were spoken by a preacher, who was trying his best. He didn't understand the Spirit and thought Jibril was it. At the same time, he was thought Jibril was an angel and he mentioned him alongside the angel Michael. The third appearance of the name Jibril is in Surah 66 verse 4. A most peculiar clue is all too obvious here. Some sections of the Quran are clearly not the teachings of the preachers who created the peaceful verses of the Quran, but from rulers of that time, before the invention of Islam. Surahs such as 9, 33, and 66 are very clear examples of these, as they have high concentration of verses about fighting and women. We have previously discussed the stories of Umar becoming part of the Quran, and lo and behold, Jibril is mentioned the 3rd time next to a verse of his. The context before and after verse 4 talks about women, but verse 5 was Umar's creation. He is the one who said those words, then according to the Islamic traditions, the verse was conveniently revealed. Very evidently, when they tried to fluff out the verses from the preachers that circulated in Arabian lands, they inserted stories and sayings of old rulers, giving them any spin they needed to make them sound as though they were all part of the same story, and relating to a messenger who didn't even exist. In the next video series we'll delve into the reading of the Quran through the lenses of these mysterious preachers, and the answers we will find will be groundbreaking. We hope you have enjoyed this series. Leave your thoughts on the comments section below, and stay tuned for the next revelations. Thank you for watching.